For much of his life, Brian Wilson, a founding member of the Beach Boys, has exemplified the troubled musical genius. Now that he's in his 80s, those troubles have sadly only compounded. Despite being celebrated for much of his work, Brian Wilson has frequently spent long periods away from the music industry. He suffered a mental health crisis exacerbated by his drug use shortly after the release of 1966's Pet Sounds. After that happened, he ceded much of the creative control of the Beach Boys to his bandmates. From then on, he only contributed to the group sporadically as a songwriter and largely retreated from the public eye.
We didn't quit. I mean, there's no such thing as quitting in life, but it was certainly disappointing.
Wilson only kickstarted his solo career with a debut solo album in 1988, which helped to reinvigorate him as a creative force over the decades that followed. And he's been surprisingly prolific in the 21st century. Among reunions with the surviving members of the band that made his name, he also released arguably his most crucial piece of solo work, Brian Wilson Presents Smile, in 2004, a new recording of material meant for the Beach Boys' abandoned 1967 album Smile. It was a critical and commercial smash, even as it reportedly irritated his former bandmates who suggested that it infringed on their intellectual property rights. Brian Wilson's later career is notable for the formerly reclusive performer's embrace of live performance. The Smile project, for example, began with live debuts of the material from the abandoned Beach Boys album. The project's success led to an enormous world tour and a Grammy Award. In the run-up to the release of his memoir in 2016, the off-touring musician told Rolling Stone, "If I retired, I wouldn't know what to do with my time. What would I do? Sit there and go, oh, I don't want to be 74. I'd rather get on the road and do concerts and take airplane flights." Unfortunately, the newly invigorated performer was stopped in his tracks in 2019 when he was twice forced to undergo back surgery, which severely impacted his ability to walk. The impact on his mental health was evident in a profile in the Los Angeles Times, in which Wilson was monosyllabic in his responses to questions. Rolling Stone later reported that Wilson had postponed tour dates due to feeling mentally insecure and unable to control his thoughts and speech. He had long been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder.
I did my dose of LSD, it shattered my mind, and I, came back, thank God, in I don't know how many pieces.
Though he later returned to touring, he was forced to stop once again the following year because of the COVID-19 pandemic, though he continued to release new recordings. Hints that something was seriously wrong with Wilson's health came in 2022 when the Oakland Press reported that he had struggled through a joint performance with the band Chicago, in which he sang little and had to use a walker to enter and exit the stage. Now Decatur reported that he later canceled his remaining tour dates on health grounds, although the exact nature of his illness was not yet public. Speaking on the Beach Boys Talk podcast, Wilson's daughter Carney, who is also a musician, admitted in 2023 that it was unlikely her father would ever tour again, though it did him a lot of good while he was able to.
I mean, really, I don't know that he would still be alive if he had not done that. I swear to God, I think he would have just dwindled away.
In February 2024, numerous outlets reported that Wilson had been diagnosed with dementia and that his family had taken steps to ensure he was receiving care for the condition. A sad announcement of Brian Wilson's dementia diagnosis came just weeks after the death of his wife, Melinda. A statement from Wilson read, "My heart is broken. Melinda, my beloved wife of 28 years, passed away this morning. Our 5 children and I are just in tears. We are lost. Melinda was more than my wife. She was my savior. She gave me the emotional security I needed to have a career. She encouraged me to make the music that was closest to my heart. She was my anchor. She was everything for us. Please say a prayer for her." Melinda was also Wilson's conservator, with legal power to manage Wilson's affairs as a result of his long-standing mental health issues, having wrested the conservatorship from psychologist Eugene Landy in a 1992 court case. With Wilson more isolated and vulnerable than ever, in February 2024, his family announced via his website that, with the songwriter's permission, they had filed for a new conservatorship which would allow his business manager Leanne Hart and manager and publicist Gene Sievers to take over the responsibility of providing care for Wilson at home, at a time when he has been deemed unable to consent to medical decisions. Though Wilson's touring days are sadly over and fans will no longer have the chance to hear classics like California Girls and God Only Knows performed live by the writer, there is still one Brian Wilson project to look forward to.
Recording's still slower these days.
In February 2024, the same month as the dementia diagnosis announcement and the filing for a change in conservatorship, Rolling Stone announced that a newly recovered album of lost material was in the works and set for release in 2025. Cows in the Pasture is an experiment in country music that Wilson began recording with the Beach Boys' former manager Fred Vale way back in 1970. It had recently been resurrected with the involvement of younger musicians, and Wilson himself, who serves as executive producer, in preparation for a commercial release. Considered a Fred Vale solo album and long the stuff of Beach Boys legend, it is hoped that the record will be as much of a success as Brian Wilson Presents Smile was.